Hey everybody, welcome back to Quality Time. So we didn't have one last week, or any of the days in last week, for which I apologize. It was busy as heck. And you'll find why very soon. So, in the news this week, I have planned out a scheduled shakeup for 2017. So currently, we alternate A block and B block videos throughout a 5-day period, which is not contiguous in the week. It's like 4 days and 3 days, which is not. It's a relic. It's a very old leftover from when I was regularly doing comic pages and the videos was supplementing them. So, for 2017, as part of my little efforts to make the channel a bit more fresh and vital, we are going to be changing that around. So that'll be going on only weekdays, so that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The streams should stay exactly where they are, and it'll be A block, B block, A block, B block, and then A block again. So, what that means is that every week you'll know exactly what day that your favourite series is coming out, you'll know exactly when to wait for it, and it'll be a lot easier for planning when exactly I have days off, because I'll have 2 in a row, so yay, I can work harder during those weekends. Because God knows everything I need to do is work harder, apparently. Hey, other than that, small medical note, I guess, which is that the two, farthest fingers on my right hand, which is my mouse hand, for those of you who didn't recognize that part, they've been feeling a bit numb recently, and I thought that was just because this office is dang cold, because I don't put the heating on. But it might be carpal tunnel. I'm not really certain. Gonna get that checked out, and I'll report back if there's anything further, but with that, on to the schedule. On Thursday night at 11 PM GMT, it's Midnight Souls. On Friday, it's Edgington with a quiet afternoon, at least as quiet as they get in Edgington anyways. On Saturday, it's Spring Realm as we show off the lore in the next dungeon. And of course, we also have at 9 PM GMT over at twitch.tv/thedragonhat, Dungeons & Dragonhat's Path of Steel, where somebody is probably going to die. On Sunday, XCOM 2 has finally ended, which means we have a new series in the works. Starting out my new endeavor to branch out on my little, standard list of games, we're going to be doing a brand new series and a brand new game with a brand new RP as we start off The Lost Hands. On Tuesday, it's another episode of Mating Do as we venture into the Erebus. And it's Yogdwell's Life number 69, I know people have been waiting for that number, over at twitch.tv/LyingInBedMon from 9 PM GMT. Lastly this week on Wednesday, it is another episode of Edgington. So yeah, look out for that. That's going to be a fun little series to start on Sunday. And on to the questions. These are, of course, drawn from the comment section of the preceding video, so if you happen to have any questions, drop them down in the comments below and we'll see if they get answered. Our first question this week comes from Red, who asks, what's the background behind all of the hat wearing? Good question. I got my first hat, which was a blue nylon, I think, or whatever it is, fedora, or trilby, depending on who you ask, when I went to Canada in 2009. This was right before I went to university, and I figured I need to shake myself up a little bit, because abrupt changes in routine, not great for autistics. And then when I got back, I went to my first convention at MCM, and I got 2 hats, which is this classic one, which has stuck with me ever since, as well as my sort of wintry eared hat as well. And they've just accumulated from there. And the only solid concrete reason I can think of why I keep wearing them is that I like a warm head. So, I don't know exactly why the hat wearing became a recurrent thing, but it has, and I've stuck with it, so. AI13 asks, is there a Spring Realms god that rules over death? There absolutely is. There is Atronicus of the Graven Mists. They're not just named that for poetry. Atronicus ruled over death. Atronicus was also the god of secrets and the god of weather. So the Mists is also not just a title. Atronicus ruled over rain and thunder and all sorts, and death just sort of flowed into that because, of course, the spirits of Redmakers and many things are water-based. They're steam, they're vapor, they're condensation. So, yeah, our weather god is our death god. You wouldn't expect it to see. Similarly, Robert Pearson asks, was there a god of monsters or dragons? there is a patron god of dragons. It's possibly not quite the one you think it would be, but the god of monsters. It's hard to classify monsters in Spring Realms mythology because everything that you would classify as a monster is in most ways a spirit or what's left of one. Zombies and skeletons, for example, are what happens when death isn't meted out properly, and creepers are a spirited creature because they were the result of mixing vines with the spirits of the Spring of Souls. So to say that there is a distinct god of monsters is a bit harder to do, but there was a god that made dragons, and you'll find them out later on. So Zen300 asks, how does witchlying affect your ability to do things in the multiverse, and what keeps them in check? The first thing that witchlying does with the multiverse is provides me a definitive anchor for trauma and tragedy, because when they when they murdered basically 135,000-ish people in the well, way back at the start of Witch in the Woods, they affected the life and times of every single lying in the multiverse, which means every single lying in the multiverse has a story about when that happened, and that gives me a nice little grounding point to say, okay, yes, you're lying because this happened, and how did that affect you? But other than that, for the most part, they don't actually affect it more or less at all, because they're not they're not actually able to travel between universes very easily, or more or less at all. The most recent example with The Return, and before that, it's the crossover with Yokai Temple, are the only examples we actually have of the witch traveling between universes, and even then they were facilitated by the exact same object, the TARDIS, which they are not in command of in the slightest, so they don't actually do very much inter-universe like that very often. But as for what keeps them in check, there was an additional question in the comments of quite how the witch became borderline deific. When you have 135,000 souls in you from 135,000 different universes, the laws of reality get a bit squiffy. So basically, by writ, you can't kill the witch. Unless you utterly devastate the well, which to date no one has tried to do, it has to be said, the witch can't die. And even if you did take out the witch, they've still got the power of 135,000 souls in them. So they're potent, to say the least. They endeavoured in the course of Witch in the Woods to become this sort of embodiment of fear and horror, and by rights, they succeeded. So consequently, gods are the most reliable thing that can actually keep them in check or abate their powers. But it's worth noting they're not the only thing that can do that. And on that cliffhanger, it's time to end, so I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time.